If you've ever felt frustrated with yourself and your faith, like you feel like you just keep blowing it and you don't know how to fix it. Like you thought you loved God, but do I really love God? I thought I did, but then I failed over here and I sinned over here and I did that thing again. If that's you, I want you to watch this video because I believe that there's a lie that millions of young Christians have believed that have caused them to walk away from their faith. That they have had this thing, this idea about what it looks like to follow Jesus and what it looks like to love him. And when it doesn't happen the way they picture in their head, they think, oh, I must not love Jesus. And that's a lie. They think that if they love Jesus, they're always going to feel like they love Jesus. They're always going to want to share the gospel. They're always going to want to read their Bible, want to pray, want to go to church. Their life is going to look like a Sadie Roberts Instagram feed, or it's going to look like Bryce Crawford, and they're going to be walking around witnessing to people and telling people about Jesus. And if it doesn't look like that, they think, man, I don't deserve to be a Christian. Because sometimes I don't want to read my Bible. Because sometimes I don't want to pray. Because sometimes I sin. And then they feel guilty and they don't feel like they can go up front for worship or lift their hands in worship or worship God because, you know what? There's a song that says, I don't want anyone else. I don't need anyone else. You are my one thing. And they think, well, there's other things that I want besides God. And they feel guilty and they walk away. But I believe that there is someone in the Bible that if we look at their life, we can show you what it really means to love Jesus and that you do love him and you're in the process of loving him more. If you've never met me, my name is Joshua Knutson. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel, 42 Revolution, as well as the YCU Young Christian University app that is there to help you love God passionately and live your faith boldly. It's going to be launching here very soon. We'd love for you to be a part of that community. Let me tell you about a guy that you've probably heard of named Peter. Peter was an apostle. Now, when you think of an apostle, you're probably thinking of somebody who looks old, they're perfect because they wrote the Bible and they walk with Jesus. But in reality, Peter was a wreck. Peter was a big mouth. Peter was probably somewhere in his 20s, very likely, when he first met Jesus. Peter cut off a guy's ear. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Peter said whatever came to his mind and didn't even care what other people thought about him. If that sounds familiar and it sounds like you, that's probably, you probably understand where Peter's coming from. Peter was constantly messing up. I want to tell you about Peter because historians say that Peter most likely was crucified upside down because he didn't believe that he was worthy to be crucified like Jesus. So, Peter was able to go from being someone who messed up all the time to giving his life for Jesus. How did he get there? I'm going to show you 6 things in the life of Peter that are really going to help you. Now, first of all, we need to understand how Peter met Jesus. Now, we think Peter sees Jesus. Wow, I'm going to follow you. Great, awesome. No, that is not how it goes down at all. Look at this. It says that in John chapter 1, verse 40, it says, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of these men who heard what John the Baptist said and then followed Jesus. Andrew went to find his brother Simon and told him, we have found the Messiah. So they believed the Messiah was going to rescue them from the Roman emperors. So basically, they thought that Jesus was going to do something for them. Then Andrew brought Simon to meet Jesus. Looking intently at Simon, Jesus said, your name is Simon, son of John, but you will be called Cephas, which means Peter. Now, I want you to understand that this is all that happens. After this, it goes on and talks about something else. Peter doesn't look impressed. Peter doesn't go, wow. Peter doesn't say, let me follow you, Jesus. He just says, hey, Simon, I'm going to call you Peter from now on. So what we see is the first time that he sees Jesus, there's nothing. Nothing happens. All he knows is there's a possibility that this guy might be able to rescue them from the Romans. And maybe that has happened with you, where the first time, maybe you're watching this video and you've been introduced to Jesus, but you're not quite sure if you want to follow him yet. This might be you. Well, the next time Peter interacts with Jesus, Jesus is preaching. He needs to talk to a lot of people, so he gets on Peter's boat. He's around Peter. Peter has been fishing all day. He hasn't caught anything. He gets on Peter's boat, and he goes out, and he's like, cool, I'm going to preach. And then here's what happened. Jesus tells Peter, hey, I want you to go and try to catch some more fish. He says, Master, we worked hard all night. Didn't catch a thing, but if you say so, I'll let the nets down again. And this time their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking. So this miracle happens, right? Simon Peter realized what happened. He fell to his knees before Jesus. Oh, Lord, please lead me. I'm such a sinful man. So here he recognizes there's something special about Jesus. Jesus did something. He had an encounter with Jesus that changed his life, for he was awestruck by the number of fish that he had caught. It doesn't say he was awestruck by Jesus. It says he was awestruck by the fish, the miracle that had happened. God did something for him. Maybe this is how it happened for you. You went to church and you had an encounter where you felt peace like never before. Or maybe you got healed. Or maybe you went there and this is the place where you have felt hope for the first time, or you felt God's love or God's presence. And he goes, yeah, I think I want to follow Jesus. And it says his partners, James and John, they were amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people. So he calls him into purpose. And it says, as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed him. So the second thing we see is there's an encounter. He experiences Jesus, and then he begins to follow Jesus. Now, why does this matter? When Peter first starts to follow Jesus, he doesn't love Jesus. All he knows is here's somebody who can meet his need. And so he begins to follow. And I want to encourage you with this thought, that you can follow Jesus believing that he is the answer and not yet know if you love him to that extent of emotion and I love you and you're my everything. And maybe it's not there yet. It wasn't there yet for Peter. Peter just knew he was special. He knew he could meet a need, and he began to follow him because there was something in him that said, yes, Jesus is the way that I should go. And maybe that's the case for you right now. You're following Jesus. You understand deep in you that he's the truth, but you're starting to build your relationship. And as he follows Jesus over the next 3 years, he sees Jesus raise the dead. He sees Jesus feed 5,000. He walks on water, right? Jesus is teaching him. He's with them. He's having fun with them. They're swan diving into the Sea of Galilee. They're having a great time. He's learning to have a relationship with Jesus. And through this is where he begins to love Jesus. This is why we tell you, spend time with God, have a relationship with him, read your Bible, go to church. These are the things that will help you be with him so you can grow and have a relationship with him. In John chapter 6, Jesus says some things that are offensive to the people. He tells them that if they don't eat his body and drink his blood, they can have no part of him. And he doesn't explain to them about communion, and he doesn't tell them that this is about fully partaking in him and them receiving all that he is or anything like that. He just says something that basically says, like, if you're not a cannibal, you can't have me, which is wild. And so everybody gets upset. And they begin, and it says this. It says, Jesus was aware that his disciples were complaining, so he said to them, does this offend you? And I want you to understand this, that at some point, Jesus is going to offend you. Jesus is going to either ask you to do something you don't want to do. He's going to tell you to stop doing something you want to keep doing. Or he's not going to come through in a way that you thought he was going to come through. There will be a point where Jesus offends you, and the question is, will you stay? It says, at this point, many of his disciples turned away and deserted him. Then Jesus turned to the 12 and asked, are you also going to leave? Simon Peter replied, Lord, to whom would we go? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go, Jesus? You have the words that give eternal life. We believe and we know that you are the Holy One of God. He says, Jesus, where else am I going to go? And sometimes it comes down to that. I'm struggling, Jesus. I don't get this, but I have nowhere else to go. I know Islam doesn't have it. I know atheism doesn't have it. I know Buddhism doesn't have it. You have the words of life, and so I'm sticking with you even if I don't understand. Well, we also know that our boy Peter's hanging out with Jesus before he goes to the cross, and Jesus says, hey, my man. So then something very significant happens. Towards the end of Jesus' life on earth, they're having the Last Supper, and Jesus says something to the disciples. He says this. When they had sung a hymn, they went to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, you will all fall away because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, you will go before me to Galilee. I will go before you to Galilee. Peter said, though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. He's saying, listen, all these suckers here, they ain't nothing. All these guys over here, I'm the best disciple. They may leave you, but I will never leave you. Jesus said, let me tell you the truth, bruh. This very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Jesus says, I know better than you, Jesus. Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. And all the disciples were like, us too, Jesus. Same, Jesus. We'll never leave you, Jesus. And guess what happens? As we know, Peter denies Jesus. Now, my question to you is, do you think at this point that Peter loves Jesus? I would say yes. When he first starts following Jesus, he doesn't love Jesus. He just sees Jesus as a means to an end, a good man, a prophet. He thinks that maybe this guy's super special. Now, at this point, he's walked with Jesus. He's loved Jesus. He's had Jesus change his life. Now he loves Jesus. And yet, he denies Jesus 3 times. And this can be us so many times. And this is where the lie gets deep. You've been with Jesus. You do feel like you love Jesus. You think you love Jesus. And then you mess up. You sin. You lie. You sleep with your boyfriend or girlfriend again. You look at that, you look at pornography again, or you gossip again, or you just don't have the feelings that you thought you had. You're like, what is going on? I thought I loved Jesus. And Peter denies Christ. But it says that he goes off and he weeps bitterly. And I think this is something that we can't forget. That it does matter that we're sorry. That we don't just go, oh, well, we're just moving on. No. I would say, God, I'm so sorry that I've denied you. That I've compromised. God, forgive me. But more important and bigger than what Peter did is honestly what Jesus did. And this is what I love, and this is what you need to see. After Jesus rose from the dead, Jesus is having breakfast with the disciples. And it says, after they finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said, then feed my lambs. Then he said a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said, then tend my sheep. He said to him a third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was sad. He was grieved because he said to him a third time, do you love me? And he said, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. What I want you to notice here is that he said, Peter, do you love me? And then Peter says, you know that I love you. Jesus didn't say to him, what I know is you deny me. What I know is you said you never knew me. What I know is that you failed. What I know, he didn't say that. He says, then go and do the thing that I've called you to do. That when Peter denies Christ, Jesus recognizes that Peter actually does love him. He says, Jesus, you know everything, meaning you know my heart. You know that even though I failed, I do love you. You know that even though I messed up, I do love you. And I want you to understand this about the lie that we've believed. Even when you mess up, it doesn't mean that you don't love Jesus. But as you continue to love him, you continue to walk with him, you continue to ask for his forgiveness, and he will continue to forgive you. And just like Peter, who was willing to be martyred for Christ at the end of his life, I believe if you just don't give up and you just stay with Jesus, your love for him will continue to grow to the point where nothing in this world matters. And you will actually be able to say, I don't want anything else. I don't need anything else. You are my one thing. I hope this encourages you and helps you to not feel, to just let the guilt go, to not walk away from Jesus, to go to him quickly when you sin and say, Jesus, I messed up again. And he says, I forgive you again. Now go do what I called you to do. Do you love me? And you say, I do love you. And you continue to follow him. My name is Joshua. If this helped you, please share this with somebody else. I want to help you love God passionately and live your faith boldly. God bless you. Drop something in the comments. Let me know if this helped you, what you got out of it, and anything else you'd like for me to talk about, because I really want to help you love God passionately and live your faith boldly. God bless you.